What if the movies we celebrate today were once considered too dangerous to exist? What if love, identity, or even a single kiss was enough to spark government panic? Around the world, films with queer themes were censored, banned, or quietly buried, not because of violence or politics, but simply because they dared to show LGBTQ plus lives on screen. Today, we're counting 12 movies that were banned for being too gay, and a few of these stories get even stranger the deeper you look. Number 12, Rocketman, 2019. Rocketman wasn't just a musical biopic, it was an unapologetic confession of Elton John's complicated, brilliant, and painful climb to global fame. But while much of the world embraced it, Samoa took the extreme route of banning the film entirely. Their officials claimed it conflicted with the country's Christian values, specifically targeting the film's portrayal of same-sex relationships and Elton's struggles with identity. What made the ban even stranger was that the film didn't lean into shock value. It simply told the truth that a gay man, one of the greatest musicians of all time, lived through incredible highs and devastating lows. In Samoa, homosexuality is still criminalized, and the film's emotional honesty about Elton's love life became the reason for its disappearance from local screens. Meanwhile, audiences elsewhere praised the movie for showing Elton as a human being rather than a polished legend. The contrast highlighted how some societies still fear queer transparency, even when it's woven into a historical figure's life. Ironically, the ban only sparked more interest. International viewers dug deeper into the story, and Samoan activists used the incident to speak openly about censorship and LGBTQ plus rights. Rocketman's ban didn't erase the message, it amplified it. Number 11, Bohemian Rhapsody, 2018. Although Bohemian Rhapsody wasn't fully banned in China, the censorship was so intense that the resulting film resembled a hollow shell of Freddie Mercury's real story. Chinese regulators removed nearly every reference to Mercury's sexuality, no same-sex kisses, no romantic hints, and in some cases, not even the word gay survived. What remained was an edited version that celebrated the music while erasing the man behind it. This led many critics to argue that the censorship itself became more controversial than the film. In the global cut, Mercury's relationships, struggles, and identity formed the emotional backbone of the movie. But in China, audiences were left with an incomplete portrait, one that detached Freddie from the very truth that shaped his life and artistry. The censorship highlighted a broader cultural tension. How can a biopic honor a queer icon if the queerness is deleted? For many fans across Asia, the censorship became a symbol of how governments still attempt to control narratives around LGBTQ+ individuals. The irony is that Freddie Mercury's legacy has always been rooted in authenticity and courage. Trying to suppress that only underscored what the movie was meant to show, that no amount of editing can silence a truth forever. In a strange way, the censorship kept the conversation alive. Number 10, The Children's Hour, 1961. When The Children's Hour hit American theaters in 1961, it became one of the most controversial U.S. films of its decade. Based on Lillian Hellman's play, the story follows two women who run a girls' boarding school and find their lives destroyed when a student spreads a rumor that they're romantically involved. The accusation, a lie within the plot, becomes the reason the characters face social ruin. But the movie itself faced something similar in real life: censorship. Even though the film treated the subject with restraint, Hollywood was still bound by the fading but powerful shadow of the Hays Code. Studios worried the lesbian implication would be too indecent for mainstream America. Some states agreed. Several cities across the South banned the film outright, claiming it violated community moral standards. Other regions demanded heavy edits or refused to screen ads for it. What made the whole situation more absurd was that The Children's Hour barely depicts anything explicit. The characters never kiss, never touch, and never even confirm the rumor. The mere suggestion of forbidden feelings was enough to provoke fear, outrage, and censorship. Over time, the film became an early landmark in American queer cinema, not because it was bold by today's standards, but because it showed how fragile public tolerance once was. Its bans, protests, and whispered screenings revealed just how dangerous a rumor could be, both on screen and off. Number 9, Brokeback Mountain, 2005. Brokeback Mountain changed cinema, yet many countries refused to let audiences see it. The film tells the heartbreaking, decades-long love story between two cowboys played by Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal. Its emotional depth, quiet, rural backdrop, and honest portrayal of forbidden love turned it into a cultural phenomenon, but not everyone welcomed it. China, most of the Middle East, and several Caribbean nations banned it outright, blaming public morality concerns. Even within the United States, resistance was strong. Some conservative theaters refused to screen it, with one Utah cinema famously canceling its opening night showings at the last minute. The film became a lightning rod for debates about masculinity and queerness, especially because it confronted an environment traditionally associated with hyper-masculine culture, the American West. Yet the backlash only magnified the film's significance. While governments tried to shield viewers, critics insisted it was one of the most powerful love stories ever put on screen. It broke stereotypes, expanded queer representation, and forced audiences to rethink what romance in cinema could look like. Its Its bans weren't simply acts of censorship. They exposed how threatened some people were by the idea that love, even in its quietest form, can exist anywhere. Brokeback Mountain did more than shake Hollywood. It shook the world. Number 8. The Danish Girl, 2015. The Danish Girl tells the story of Lily Elbe, one of the earliest known recipients of gender confirmation surgery. Its portrayal of Lily's transition, emotional struggle, and search for identity earned wide praise in the West. But in several Muslim-majority countries, the reaction was vastly different. Nations such as Qatar, Oman, and the UAE banned the film entirely. Officials argued that it promoted gender confusion, framing the movie as a threat to cultural and moral values. What made the ban particularly striking was how restrained the film actually is. Rather than focusing on shock or sensationalism, it leans into tenderness, grief, and self-discovery. Its emotional core revolves around love and sacrifice, especially between Lily and her wife Gerda. But even the gentlest depiction of a transgender story was considered too disruptive for regions where gender nonconformity remains taboo or illegal. The film sparked global discussion about how trans narratives are handled across different societies. While audiences in Europe and North America saw it as a sensitive portrait of early transgender history, others saw it as a political act. Ultimately, the bans amplified the very themes the movie explores: identity, visibility, and the courage to exist despite resistance. The Danish Girl may have been censored in some places, but it opened conversations that censorship couldn't contain. Number 7. Rafiki, 2018. When Rafiki premiered, it immediately became one of the most controversial films in Kenya's history. The movie follows two young women who fall in love in a Nairobi neighborhood, offering a tender portrayal of queer romance against a backdrop of political tension and societal expectation. The Kenya Film Classification Board banned it instantly, accusing the film of promoting lesbianism and violating national cultural values. But the ban didn't quiet the film, it ignited it. International festivals embraced Rafiki, praising its vibrant colors, bold storytelling, and emotional honesty. The ban unexpectedly transformed the film into a symbol of artistic rebellion. Kenyan activists challenged the decision in court and won a temporary lifting of the ban for 1 week, just long enough for the film to qualify for the Oscars. During that week, theaters overflowed with audiences eager to see what their government tried to hide. People documented long lines, sold-out showings, and moments of emotional reflection. Many viewers said it was the first time they had seen queer Kenyan characters treated with beauty and dignity. Eventually, the ban returned, but the impact had already been made. Rafiki became an international emblem of LGBTQ+ resilience, proving that censorship often amplifies the very art it tries to suppress. Number 6. Disney's Lightyear, 2022. When Disney released Lightyear, few expected it to become one of the most globally banned children's movies in recent years. The controversy centered around a brief same-sex kiss between two female characters, a moment lasting barely a second. Yet this single affectionate gesture led 14 countries, including Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, and the UAE, to block the film entirely. Authorities justified the bans by claiming the scene violated cultural and religious standards. What made the reaction so intense was the scale. Animated films rarely provoke geopolitical debates, but Lightyear did. It became a lightning rod for discussions on representation in children's media. Some governments demanded Disney remove the scene. Disney refused. This refusal marked a shift in how major studios approach queer representation. No more editing or apologizing for showing families that reflect real audiences. In many Western countries, parents and critics dismissed the controversy, noting that the moment was hardly noticeable. But in banned regions, the film sparked conversations about censorship, identity, and the fear surrounding even the mildest queer visibility. While Lightyear wasn't a massive box office hit, its cultural footprint grew because of the bans. Instead of quietly joining the Toy Story universe, it became a symbol of how something as small as a kiss can expose enormous cultural divides. Number 5. Cruising, 1980. Few films caused as much uproar before release as Cruising, starring Al Pacino as an undercover cop navigating New York's gay leather scene. Long before the movie reached theaters, LGBTQ+ activists protested the production, fearing it would reinforce damaging stereotypes about gay men and queer nightlife. Some even attempted to sabotage filming by blowing whistles and flashing lights during takes, making on-location shoots nearly impossible. Governments didn't react kindly either. Several countries banned the film entirely, arguing that its depiction of gay subcultures was too explicit for mainstream audiences. Others permitted release only after removing large sections of footage. Even critics were deeply divided. Some condemned it as exploitative, while others saw it as a bold attempt to explore a hidden world rarely acknowledged on screen. Regardless of interpretation, Cruising pushed boundaries. It forced viewers to confront parts of queer culture that had been ignored or intentionally erased. Although the movie was undeniably sensationalized for dramatic effect, it captured a moment in time, a pre-AIDS era subculture with its own codes, communities, and vulnerabilities. In retrospect, its controversies overshadowed everything else. But the bans and backlash showed that simply depicting LGBTQ+ characters outside polite society was enough to provoke institutions worldwide. Cruising remains, decades later, a conversation starter rather than a forgotten thriller. Number 4. Farewell, My Concubine, 1993. Farewell, My Concubine is widely regarded as one of the greatest films ever made, yet it faced severe censorship in its country of origin. The movie explores the lives of two male Peking opera performers and the complicated emotional bond that grows between them over decades. Its themes of identity, performance, political trauma, and suppressed desire made it an instant international sensation. But in China, authorities accused it of distorting historical events and depicting relationships that conflicted with state-approved narratives. The queer subtext wasn't the only issue, but it played a major role in the temporary ban. Officials worried that its intimate portrayal of male-male affection and its unfiltered look at China's political past could challenge nationalist ideology. Even after the film won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, China hesitated. Only after global acclaim and pressure did the film's ban lift, and even then, the release was restricted. Internationally, critics praised the film's sweeping scale, heartbreaking performances, and layered storytelling. But the censorship it endured revealed the complex relationship between Chinese cinema, political power, and queer representation. The irony is that the government's attempt to suppress the film only cemented its status as a masterpiece worth fighting for a work too beautiful to silence. Number 3. Different from the Others, 1919. Different from the Others is one of the earliest known films to portray homosexuality with compassion rather than ridicule. Released in Germany in 1919, it told the story of a musician blackmailed under anti-gay laws, exposing the cruelty and injustice LGBTQ+ individuals faced. For its time, the film was revolutionary, offering empathy instead of condemnation. However, its honesty also made it a target. Shortly after its release, German authorities banned it, labeling it dangerous to public morals. The rising Nazi movement later destroyed most remaining copies, viewing queer representation as a threat to their ideological purity. Only fragments of the film survived, preserved by archivists who recognized its historical significance. Attempts to distribute the film in the United States failed as well. U.S. Customs seized the reels, arguing that the movie was immoral and unfit for American audiences. This suppression marked the beginning of decades-long censorship of queer cinema in both Europe and America. The tragedy of Different from the Others is not just its ban, but its near erasure. It was a pioneering work that could have influenced generations of filmmakers had it survived intact. Instead, censorship reduced it to scattered remnants, a reminder of how fragile early queer history truly was. Number 2. Tea and Sympathy, 1956. Adapted from a successful Broadway play, Tea and Sympathy tackled themes far ahead of its time. The story follows a sensitive teenage boy who becomes the target of cruel rumors that he might be gay, rumors that shape his self-worth and relationships. The film explores masculinity, social pressure, and the dangers of rigid expectations. But Hollywood in the 1950s operated under the strict Hays Code, which forbade any explicit mention of homosexuality. To get approved, the film's queer subtext had to be softened almost beyond recognition. Even then, several southern states banned it, calling the implications indecent. The idea that a boy could be bullied for not fitting masculine stereotypes was too controversial for censors determined to preserve traditional gender roles. What makes the ban ironic is that the film hardly contains any direct references to sexuality. The mere suggestion, the possibility of queerness, was considered threatening enough to pull it from theaters. Audiences at the time were left with a censored version that hinted at deeper meaning but never dared speak it aloud. Today, Tea and Sympathy stands as a quiet critique of the era's fear-driven moral policing. It shows how queer themes didn't need explicit depiction to provoke outrage. They only needed to exist. Number 1. Making Love, 1982. Making Love was one of Hollywood's first mainstream gay love stories, yet despite its PG rating, it faced intense backlash across the United States. The film follows a married man coming to terms with his sexuality and falling in love with another man, a storyline that challenged the conservative norms of early 1980s America. Instead of celebrating a sensitive, character-driven narrative, hundreds of theaters refused to show it. Many claimed audiences weren't ready to see two men share romantic moments on screen. Television networks also hesitated. For years, major channels declined to broadcast the movie, fearing controversy or advertiser backlash. Critics were divided. Some praised its sincerity, while others dismissed it as too tame compared to later LGBTQ cinema. But the censorship wasn't about content, it was about fear. The idea of presenting a gay relationship as normal, affectionate, and worthy of screen time felt radical. In reality, the film broke barriers simply by being honest. It portrayed love, confusion, heartbreak, and self-acceptance in a way that emphasized humanity rather than spectacle. While it struggled at the box office, Making Love paved the way for more nuanced queer stories in Hollywood. Its bans revealed just how resistant mainstream culture once was to acknowledging LGBTQ+ relationships, even in their gentlest form. These films were banned for reasons that feel unbelievable today: fear, politics, culture, or just the refusal to accept LGBTQ+ people on screen. Yet each of them survived censorship, sparked conversation, conversations and pushed representation forward. If you want more deep dive videos like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next.